Happiness, presented by Mr. John Davidson.
Hello everybody. My name's John Davison, and so I'm co-founder and creative director of a UK company called Kanoti. So we're down in Brighton on the south coast of UK, about an hour away from London. And so this talk is just a story of a game we made about happiness, and just really the story about how it came together. So the game was commissioned by a UK broadcaster called Channel 4, who you may know do the education department at Channel 4, have done an immense amount of amazing work for social change and for education in this space over the last few years, including games on civil liberties, games on finance, brilliant game by Preloaded, who are here, on death, and finally on this side here is a game called Privates, which is an amazing game which essentially you lead a battalion of privates through your private parts to learn about STDs. And there's on their website right now, it says, spoiler alert, next level is released on a giant cock, or something like that. So really irreverent, brilliant stuff. So Channel 4's kind of remit is to do stuff that's useful to teenagers between 14 and 19. And so not necessarily directly educational curriculum stuff, but stuff that is sort of life skills and just generally useful to that age group. So we were really privileged to be commissioned by Channel 4, and we originally sort of started the conversations about the fact they wanted to commission some mobile games. Just that's where teenagers are these days, and so already we kind of knew that being a mobile game, we had the opportunity to do something quite intimate and personal. And so throughout the whole process, we worked with focus groups in Brighton, and talked to them, several people, about what was important to them. And what was really poignant for this group was body image, and I'm sure it's a big deal over here, and just this saturation of media imagery that the teens are faced with, that it's a really big deal for them. And one of the interesting insights that came out of those groups was that they sort of asserted that their fashion, compared to my generation or the previous generation, had become more homogenous, and that there was nowhere to hide in your youth tribes, in your youth culture as much anymore, so that if everyone looks the same, then all you're left to judge on is your looks, your personal appearance. So if you're fat and big and not very handsome, then you're really at the bottom of the pecking order. And likewise, if you're up the top, then you've got to maintain it and keep up with the Joneses, sort of thing. So, so we were really keen to tackle the notion of body image as the starting point. So we didn't want to do something preachy that would tackle it full on, kind of obviously. We wanted something lateral that would sort of counter it. And so we kind of had this vision that you're born with your outer image, your outer beauty. You're born with. You're really limited in what you can do about it. There's only so much you can do to change it. But what is much more malleable is your inner beauty. So was there a way that we could get these teens to think about their inner beauty? And we kind of had this vision that we wouldn't judge them for caring about their outer appearance and their stuff, and that they could do that. So they've cleaned their teeth, they've done their hair, they've got the best clothes on, but how about some grooming on your inner beauty as well? So this really nice kind of counterbalance to what already exists, instead of impacting something that's really, really rigid. So how the hell are we going to get people to work on their inner beauty was the obvious next question. And we really knew we didn't want to have kind of inspirational quotes on slides of sunsets or anything like that. And about that time, we came across this field of positive psychology. So it's come out of Harvard. And you may have seen a great TED talk by Sean Aker. If you haven't, I really recommend you watch it. So positive psychology is really sort of takes the notion that instead most of us have the convention that if we work hard and we get a great job and we get success, then one day we'll be happy. So you have the pursuit of happiness in America, and so positive psychology sort of twists that notion that if you can actually generate a positive mindset, then success will be a result of that. So changing the order. And so essentially the notion is that if you can train your brain to become in a more positive state, then there are all kinds of results. Not least, a natural side effect we thought would be that you'll improve your body image naturally. And but essentially, this notion being that it's kind of the opposite of your fight or flight mechanism, in which your brain sort of shuts down to its core functions. But when your brain's in a positive state, it's firing on all cylinders. you're 31% more productive, and all kinds of results. Surgeons do better surgery, people do better in exams, and your brain, you literally see more, and so your brain is just a different machine in a positive state. And the key notion about this that we wanted to put in the game was just thinking about doing something positive affects your brain the same way as actually doing it. So we were sort of thinking about how we could prime these kids or prompt them to start generating the positive things in their life and sort of interrupt that notion of insecurity or whatever it is. So we kind of had this notion that we would get them to prompt them about the good stuff in their life. So furthermore, with positive psychology, as with any habit, when you're forming a new habit in the brain, there's this notion called neuroplasticity. So whether it's knowledge, I know they did this experiment with London cab drivers who have to learn all the roads in London, nothing like New York, as you know, and they sort of analyse their brains, and there's these thickets of neural pathways where their brain has kind of physically changed. So in training the brain, not only can you train it to learn new knowledge, but also you can train it to become more positive and optimistic, and literally change your perception of the world and change your outlook. So essentially, you could arguably kind of brainwashing kids, but it's kind of voluntary. So we kind of decided on 6 categories that we would, in which we would get people to think about the positive things in their life. So things they were grateful for, things they were looking forward to, acts of kindness they could do, their personal strengths, which actually, interestingly, the focus groups found that the hardest, positive experiences and positive events in their lives. In the aim to just kind of get the brain to start forming new habits of positivity and optimisticness. So we thought if there's going to be any rigour with this, then it's going to be really difficult to kind of bake it into the gameplay. So we kind of clear at this point that we wanted to separate this sort of brain training from the actual game itself, and that the brain would just be a kind of a primer to get you to start thinking about this stuff, so it would be a nice place to be. So we started looking at positive games, and in particular games like Rolando and Loco Roco. And Loco Roco was designed by the Japanese PlayStation team, and so in this game it's just relentlessly positive without being kind of nauseating. It's just a beautiful place to be. And one of the key elements with these games is that to progress and advance through the levels, it's all done through positive actions. So for instance, in Loco Roco, there's these lovely big blobby obstacles that you have to get past, and the way you get past them is either give them a present or sing them a song. So sort of advancing through these kind of lovely positive actions. So we kind of wanted to take this notion of cooperation. So we were clear as well that we wanted a kind of ambient game in which you would kind of propel this protagonist around the level. So we kind of came up with this character called the Hap, who's the last iota of positivity in this world that you were going to play in, and put that in a really simple narrative. So the Hap lives on the planet Hap as well, which is a lovely, fluffy, happy place which gets invaded by viroids. And this last iota of happiness is your protagonist, with which you must restore the world to its former beauty and glory. So when you first start the game, the level select screen is this kind of gooey, oily planet which has been invaded, and as you go, each level is a zone on the planet which you must transform and restore it to its former state. So we were clear that we wanted to get something of that feeling of joyfulness in the game mechanic, and started working on this. So that was coupled with this sort of creative notion that we wanted it to be kind of set in this internal biological world in which you were kind of burrowing within yourself to find your potential and your possibilities. So we kind of had this notion of burrowing through this internal world, and wanted to couple that with this cooperation of your friends who would help you get from one end of the level to the next. So we're kind of figuring out this mechanic of kind of launching yourself through this gooey mass, and just one of those nice eureka moments on a Sunday morning it was in the shower. I just got the name of the game and just said, yes, it's Uplifted, and that's kind of what the game mechanic aims to do. So not only do you uplift your protagonist through these kind of masses in the game, but also we wanted to add a component of skill, so that you kind of the faster you swipe through this mass, then the quicker it will go, and likewise the slower you swipe, the slower it goes to get you around the place. So just see that mechanic in action here. So the player gets some visual feedback. In other words, you see this white line. If it's a fat line, then you're going slowly. And if it's a thin line, then you're going fast. So you kind of get some feedback as to how you're doing. So, so again, this kind of secondary component of cooperation. So we start with a load of these and boiled them down to 3, which was portals who would swallow you and spit you out somewhere else. Switches and gates, so you'd have to land on a switch to open a gate. And trampolines, which would again just increase this notion of sort of boinging around the place and this joyful kind of light flowing feeling. So a couple of those secondary elements in action. So we've just got the portal and the trampoline there. Yeah, so kind of wrestled with the aesthetics of the game, and as I say, we were clear that we wanted this internal world. And one of the other things that was kind of clear to us from user testing was this kind of saturated primary colours of Loco Roco. The concern was that we just wanted to age it up. The sort of target audience was 16. So it's a kind of bit more sophisticated, a bit more noir, atmospheric place to be, but still really, really lovely kind of visual noir place to be. So yeah, so it went for this kind of pinky, squelchy place, which you transform back to this lovely, fluffy thing. So yeah, at the end of each level, it's a really simple notion, but we kind of figured it was the right place to do it in that when you finish your level, you have that sense of accomplishment, you transform this world back, this zone of the world, back to its former state, and at that point you're prompted to ask 3 questions. And what's key about this is it wouldn't work with a sort of multiple choice list. What's really key with the kind of positive psychology is that you generate something that's personal to you, and an important thing was that we passcode protected the game so that your little brother couldn't go in and help you or blackmail you with your personal answers. So it's a really private, intimate space, and we did discuss that you could tweet or sort of share these possibilities or these great things in your life, but actually we kind of decided it was more powerful, it was intimate and private, and that would be your kind of your own thing that only you knew about, and then you could be unabashed in what you put there. So just really simple prompts about that anyone could answer, but it's important they could generate something personal to them. So the key element of the game was what we called the positome, where all these answers were stored. So you can see the 6 categories there, and there's 20 levels in the game. So by the end of the game, you've built up 60 kind of things in your life that are great and positive. So this notion being that you can visit this bank anytime. And one of the key things, again with positive psychology, is positivity boosts. So for instance, if you're going into an exam or you've got a driving test or whatever it is, that you can go and remind yourself what you're grateful for, what you're looking forward to. And this it's a very simple but very powerful notion in that that can be enough to kind of switch your brain out of something negative into something positive. And the key thing with this as well is that you can change your answers at any time, so you can go back and change, go back and replay the game, or just use this as a kind of resource for your bank or personal stuff to cheer you up, basically. So yeah, here's the trailer for the game. Thank you. Yeah, that music I think is, had a great composer work on it as well. It makes such a lovely element to the game. So yeah, in conclusion, can this game make you happy? I think it kind of, it plants the seed, and what I took heart from, so basically at the end of the game we got a bunch of young people to play the game for a few days and come back and tell us about it. And I guess what I took heart from was the fact that their answers, so one of the questions for instance was, what was the last thing you saw that was beautiful? And there were things like a field of wheat that was blowing in the winds, there was mushrooms under a fence, and my dog's eyes. And so they're kind of like, it's not like the sunset over the Taj Mahal or the Northern Lights. These are kind of micro, small, personal things. And what I liked about that was these kids were able to kind of reframe things or spot beauty in ordinary things, in the banal things in their life. And I guess what kind of what was apparent was that even if that's what they're doing, then they're kind of interrupting that. Like when your mind's in that state where you can see beautiful things in the ordinary, then you're not in a place of insecurity and self-doubt or whatever. So I think it's a kind of, the seed is planted, and we would have loved to. It's a kind of light version of positive psychology, but definitely impacted, and some lovely comments on the App Store about people who said they were in a bad place, and they used the game as a way to kind of generate getting out that place. So that's it. Thank you. So I think I spoke a bit fast, so I've got some time for questions, if there's any question. Yeah.
Has anybody done, or is anybody planning to do, or could they do some kind of study of who selects play the game, and preferably with some sort of psychosocial segmentation, and thinking about things like prisoners, for example, or diagnosed youth, or you get the idea.
Yeah, I do. Well, one of the things that's come out of it that's interesting is there is a woman I know who runs a unit for brain-injured children or brain recovery patients. And interestingly, in that field, she said there is this kind of paradigm of negativity, because the more severely injured you are, the more compensation you get. So there's this sort of atmosphere of concentrating on the bad things about your symptoms. So the game's being used in that ward right now to encourage young people to kind of have a positive mental attitude to aid their recovery. So it's just an element of that process, and she's a real believer in positive psychology and that kind of compassionate care to aid recovery. But certainly that's going on, and we'd love to do more in that space. Yeah.
Is she giving you any feedback about efficacy with those kids?
Yes, she will do. So it's a new thing, and I'll let you know what happens. Yeah. Yeah.
Is there real-world value in revisiting the positone? And if so, how do you motivate that in the game?
It's a good question. So I guess the real-world value is that you, the questions are kind of about now. So what's good in your life right now? And so the intrinsic value is when you go back 3 months later, it will remind you of that place in your life. But in terms of motivating it, I guess, we struggled with it because some people you could probably play the game in an afternoon or a few days, and the kind of notion of a casual game, which was the kind of brief, is sort of contrary to, in terms of the positive psychology training, you're supposed to do these small but repeated exercises over 21 days. So, to make a game that you play over 21 days, we just thought it just doesn't fit the format, and we didn't want to force it. So I guess, it doesn't do that, but I'm kind of happy that it plants a seed and it fits the format and people play a casual game. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm wondering, when you work with Channel 4
Mm.
on developing a game like that, do you market it together? How do you market it to make sure that it has a life?
It's a really good question, and so we did market it together, and it's problematic. I mean, basically Channel 4's, there's a few things that basically they had some big other game releases that we would have been linked to that we missed, but they sort of asserted that the key way to get visibility is to do it through the App Store. And obviously that's, it's really difficult. It's a fairly small budget game. They were commissioning a lot of them. So we did a big PR campaign, sort of social media campaign, worked with a PR agency, and essentially that was the kind of resource we went for. So that helped, and we're both working together to promote game, speaking at events like this, and working at the Brain Injured Children Ward and taking it to schools as well. So I think my interest is that it's kind of kids who get to use the game rather than the media that see it. So I guess we're sort of doing it in a more of a smaller micro way. Yeah.
So they don't, for instance, I know BBC will put these kinds of games on our their catalog in but they don't just put them up and make them available for free to everyone? Or
Yeah, they're free in the App Store. Yeah, they are free. Yeah.
So you said small budget, they were doing a lot of these small budget games.
Yeah.
Was there any, first maybe prototype or iteration period where, okay, I'm going to fund 20 small games, so then you do small micro checks on 60, game concepts, and then we say, oh wow, these are the 10 games that people really care to engage with. Or is it just kind of like, okay, you're a game developer, go at it?
The latter, pretty much. I mean, Faraz, the commissioner at Channel 4, basically I came to him with a bunch of a long list, then a short list, and I think together, he's been commissioning this stuff for a good few years. And it was probably 9 months of iteration, but mainly in the kind of gameplay and game testing and all that stuff. But I think once we identified the key issue and knew how it was going to work, then it was like, we just committed to it and made the game. And there's other games that were commissioned in the same kind of at the same time on bullying and sleep. There's a great game called Zeds, check it out, which sort of measures your sleep patterns and then incorporates those sleep patterns into, changes the game level accordingly. So I think it kind of, once the commissioner is happy with the issue in hand, then we just go into production and development. Yeah.
That was great.
Cool. Thanks. Cool. Well, thanks very much, guys. Cheers.